second parak in Shabbos, the famous parak of Bamei Madlikin, deals with Hadlokas Neiros. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Chaf Heyom and Beis, says Hadlokas Ner Shabbos Chayva. That Ner Shabbos, Hadlokas Neiros on Shabbos is a chayv. It's an obligation for us to do. Rashi says Chayva Kavod Shabbos she'ein suda chashuva ele b'mokum or. That Hadlokas Neiros is rooted in Kavod Shabbos. Rashi says, but you don't have a nice Shabbos meal, a banquet, unless there are candles, unless there's light there. So Hadlokas Neiros is rooted in Kavod Shabbos. Tosfos over there says, Pirush b'mokum suda, d'chayvahu sheyisoid b'mokum haner, mishum oinik. Tosfos says it's a din in oinik Shabbos. What's the oinik Shabbos? I think the oinik Shabbos is that if a person sees the food, he enjoys it much more. Elsewhere, the Gemara says that an oni can never be fully satiated. He can never feel full. Why? Because he can't see the food. Parts of his satiation comes through seeing the food. So Tosfos here says that Hadlokas Neiros on Shabbos is a din in Oinik Shabbos, that you can see what you're eating and you can enjoy it more. That enhances your Oinik Shabbos. The Gemara gives a third reason, quotes a pasuk in Eicha, Vatiznach misholem nafshi, and Rashi explains that if there's a lack of light, then a person will stumble. Rashi says, Hadlokas ner b'Shabbos shelo hoylo mimad lahadlik, v'mokum she'ein ner ein sholem, shehoylech v'nichshal v'hoylech ba'afela. If there's no light, then a person will fall over, he'll stumble, and that will cause friction and tension in the home. So Hadlokas Neiros, there seem to be three reasons set out on the Gemara Shabbos Chaf Heyom and Beis. Rashi says it's Kavod Shabbos, because you don't have a nice Suda if in the dark, it adds, it's a prestigious event. Tosfos says because of Oinik Shabbos, and the Gemara gives a third reason of Shalom Bayis. Okay, the Mishnah is now going to enumerate which wicks and which oils are kosher for Hadlokas Neiros. The Mishnah begins, Vameh Madlikin or Vameh Ein Madlikin. Which lights, which wicks are kosher to use for Hadlokas Neiros, and which cannot be used. Ein madlikin loy belechesh. You're not allowed to use lechesh. What is lechesh? The Bar Tanura explains, K'min semer yesh be'erez bein ha'klipa le'etz. It's a type of wool between the bark, the inside of the bark of a cedar tree, of an erez. That you cannot use. Furthermore, v'loy b'choysen, nor can you use some sort of flax which hasn't been spun properly. The Bar Tanura says choysen is pishton she'einu menufotz. The stems have been crushed, but it hasn't been twisted properly. V'loy b'koloch, nor can you use silk. V'loy b'psilas ha'edon, nor can you use a psil of edon. The Bar Tanura says psilas ha'edon is kamin semer, it's a type of wool. Yesh ba'arava ben ha'klipa la'etz. So again, a type of wool which you find on the inside of the bark of an arava tree. V'loi b'psilas ha'midbar, nor can you use fiber from the midbar, from the desert. The Bar Tanura says, Ale esev aruch shegoydlin oysom madlikin bohen. It's a type of long grass that you find in the midbar that you could use as a wick. You're not allowed to use that for Hadlokas Neiros on Shabbos. And then the Mishnah says, B'yirokish al pnei hamayim, which the Bar Tanura says, it's a type of moss, a green moss that you find on the underside of a boat, that has been in the water for a long time. A green moss sort of accumulates around the bottom of the ship. That can't be used for Hadlokas Neiros. So the Mishnah so far has mentioned 6 items, and Ad Kan we are talking about the wicks themselves. Now the Mishnah is going to move on, and is going to be talking about the shemen, the actual oil, which is kosher to use for Hadlokas Neiros. Continues the Mishnah. V'loi b'zefes, v'loi b'shaiva. You're not allowed to use zefes. Zefes is pitch. V'loi b'shaiva, nor some sort of wax. The Mefarshim explain that that's only when it's melted to use it in that sort of form. But once you've made them into candles, that will be acceptable. V'loi b'shemen kik, nor should you use cottonseed oil for Hadlokas Neiros. V'loi b'shemen streifa, nor should you use shemen streifa. Shemen streifa, But again, the Mefarshim explain that this refers to Truma, which has become Tomei. Now we know that the halachas of Truma are that if a person has got some produce, he gives either a 40th, a 50th, or a 60th to the kohen. If he's very generous, he'll give a 40th to the kohen. If he's of average generosity, he'll give 2%, 1/50th to the kohen. And if he's mean, he'll only give 1/60th. So if a person has got an olive tree, and then he produces some olive oil, let's say he gives 2% to the kohen. Once he's designated this olive oil as truma that he's going to dedicate and give it to the kohen, then certain halachas apply. And if that truma, if that olive oil became tomei, so then you're not allowed to, a person can't eat it, and it needs to be burnt. There is a halacha that tomei, truma, which became tomei, has got to be burnt. It's called shemen streifa because it must be burnt. So when the Mishnah says v'lo b'shemen streifa, you mustn't use shemen, i.e. truma, which is olives which have been made into olive oil and was going to be given to the kohen as truma, and became tomei. That's got to be burnt, and you can't use that. So the shaila is why not? Because it's mutar b'hana, so why can't you use it? So the Gemara explains that we're talking about a Friday afternoon when you want to light hadlokas neiros. That Friday is Yom Tov, and there is a halach which will come to Mishnah in the next Mishnah of ein surfin kodshim b'Yom Tov. And since you can't burn, you're not allowed. We'll explain why in the next Mishnah why you can't burn kodshim on Yom Tov. So therefore, lo b'shem and streifa, you cannot use this oil for hadlokas neiros. The Mishnah continues, v'lo ba'alya v'lo b'chelev. You're not allowed to use fat from the tail of the animal. V'lo b'chelev, which is again also the types of fats of the animal, you can't use that for hadlokas neiros. Nachum hamodai oimer madlikin b'chelev mevushel. If you were to melt or to cook this oil, this chelev, then it would be mutter to in fact use. Whether it's cooked, whether it's not cooked, you can't use it. The obvious problem is, what are the Chachamim, how are they differing to what the Tanakama says? The Tanakama says, Ein madlikin, you're not allowed to light, lo b'chelev, etc., etc. Nachum HaModeh comes along and says, well, if it's mevushel, you can. And then the Chachamim say, Echad mevushel, v'echad ein mevushel, ein madlikin bo. So how are they differing to the Tanakama? So the Gemara explains that the nafkamina between them is whether you add a little bit more oil to this chelev, and is the mixture allowed to be used or not. And the Gemara says it's not clear who holds what, who is more machmir, but that is the nafkamina between them. The Mefarshim also explain what exactly is the problem with using some of these oils, these materials. The Mefarshim explain, if the Rashbam says, halfway down the Dibah Masr v'lo b'shem and kick, the Bartanura explains matam upsilas she'omru chachom me'madlikin boy matam. What is the problem with these pasilas and these shemen etc. that we mentioned previously? Mipnei sheha'or mesachseches bohem koloima. That means to say she'ein ha'or nichneses toicha psila, that the oil won't penetrate the wick properly. V'elasoviv mibachutz, it will just sort of float around on the outside, and it won't create a very pure, strong light. And furthermore, v'shmeinim she'omru, the oils which the Mishnah has listed as being inferior and cannot be used for hadlokas neiros, ein madlikin bohem lefi she'ein nimshachim acha hapsila, because the oil isn't drawn properly into the wick. Umitoich she'ein haneh delekes yofer, and since the light is not going to burn well, chashinon shemeyate hashemen al pi haneh v'nimtze maveh. There's a possibility that a person will tilt the candle, the oil, in order that it would burn stronger. And it'll be over an issa of maveh, of causing a fire on Shabbos. Inami, says the Bartanura, Inami shem yaniach haner v'yetze. A person will be in the room on Shabbos, there'll be hadlokas neiros, he'll see that the light that is being afforded from the lights is not very strong, and he'll leave the room, he'll go somewhere else. And Nimtze will come out that, v'anan kaiman on the Shabbos chayva. So it will come out that he won't be fulfilling his mitzvah of Ner Shel Shabbos, and therefore Chazal requested that there've got to be certain lights which are used, and any inferior lights or wicks cannot be used because he will not fulfill his obligation of Ner Shel Shabbos. That is